Today we're going to be exploring the wonderful brand of Zoologist. This one should be a fun one. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances, and this is Fragrance Speed Dating with Zoologist. Welcome to the first episode of this new format on my channel. I call this Fragrance Speed Dating because it's supposed to be the fastest way for me to sample fragrances, the way to go through samples, and the way to give you guys my very first impressions without too many details. If you follow this channel for any length of time, you know that my videos are pretty lengthy, my descriptions are long, I go into a lot of details. I like talking about the houses, the bottles, the presentation, and all that. And even in my fragrance first impressions, which is a little bit of a lower level of engagement with the fragrances, because again, I don't talk about the presentation, I don't talk about the houses much, I still take my time to really smell the fragrance, to come back in the dry down and to give all my impressions. This new format is supposed to be quick and dirty. Basically, I plan on covering a lot of fragrances per video. I would say from 4 to about 10. It really depends on the depth and how many samples I have. The choice of fragrances will probably be based either on a house, like in this case, we're gonna be sampling Zoologist, a lot of Zoologist fragrances, or it might be based on a genre. This new video concept was born not only to give you guys a more quick, fast-paced, more entertaining, possibly video format, but it also serves me a bunch because I'm sitting on a mountain of samples, and this is one of the ways that I have to get through the samples and get my nose on many things. The goal for these videos is to sample mainly stuff that I've never smelled before. In the case of Zoologist, I have a ton of samples. I think we're up to 19. I'm gonna be smelling them all. But in this case, I have to say that Zoologist is a brand that I've smelled a lot of. I would say I have at least a third of these that I smelled. So I'll be referring to that once we get to each sample. I'll tell you if I smelled it or not. The mountain of samples I have comes from various sources. For one, I get a lot of samples when I trade fragrances. My trade fragrance buddies, namely Nut, sends me a ton of samples. Shout out to Nut. Another very cool source of samples, namely for Zoologist and the other brand I'm gonna cover in this format soon, comes from a fragrance group that I'm in. It's basically a WhatsApp group started by, again, some trading buddies. And one of the guys is Stefano. Shout out to Stefano if you're watching, because great job on the organization. He had the great idea of like purchasing these discovery sets so that we could basically share them around. Each would get a chance to sample everything, and then we would move on to the next person. I just happen to have a YouTube channel, so this is a pleasant surprise. It gave me an idea for the new format. It just sort of fit in with everything. So all the zoologists come from this group. I'll be sending them off to the next person in a couple days with the other fragrance brand that I'm gonna talk about. Due to the sheer amount of fragrances that I need to sample in this video format, I'll be spraying them on strips. This is fairly new for me. I have a ton of strips. I really never use them because I mainly wear my fragrances on skin. Spraying on strip is not bad. It's actually way more neutral, and it gives you the impression of what the fragrance would wear on like clothes or textile. So just take it with a grain of salt. Know that usually I spray stuff on skin and that my skin chemistry really affects what I smell. On strip, it might be a little bit different. Last but not least, before we start, I really want to shout out to another YouTube channel, CG Scents. We've been talking a lot. We've been basically growing together. We almost started at the same time. Lately, he put out a really interesting video about fragrance sampling and blind buying. I'll be linking to that in the description. Long story short, he points out that fragrance sampling, although recommended in the community as your go-to practice, is actually something that really brings down the level of engagement within sampling each type of fragrance. And blind buying, as controversial as it sounds, it sort of forces you to give the fragrance a lot of chances, to get multiple wears in, to talk about the bottle design, and just to experience the whole brand and that fragrance specifically as a whole. I have to say that my approach, although not for everyone, because I still do recommend sampling, is very much aligned to the thought pattern. When I blind buy a fragrance, I am forced in a way to give it a chance. And in my last video, Acquareggia, that is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's a fragrance that I did not like, and it's fine, but I gave it multiple wears. I came to, in a way, understand the scent, or maybe not understand it after multiple wears. But I'm very aware of what it is and maybe who it's for. When you sample, especially if you buy bulk amount of samples, what will happen is you're gonna smell one, If you're not gonna like it, you're gonna just move on. And sometimes fragrances really need time to develop, maybe need time to be understood. All this to say is that I'm not necessarily recommending everyone to go blind buy, absolutely not. But if you really wanna care for a fragrance, if you really are invested in trying it and giving it a chance, probably getting a bottle, even like a partial bottle, will make you a little bit more invested into the process of trying and committing. This is sort of reminiscent of today's video game market. We have so many options, so much availability, that basically you buy a video game, maybe on Steam, you install it, you don't like it, you just drop it. As a kid, we would get one video game for Christmas and you were stuck with it. And you would end up probably appreciating it for what it is. You would just explore it, you would know the bugs, the nuances, but you could at least talk about it. And I feel that we're so spoiled with the next thing that when owning a bottle, you're really kind of like forced to commit. This is absolutely not trying to justify an addict behavior. This is what I like, this is my approach. And it always follows the rules of do what is within your means. I usually try to keep things under control, meaning that if I buy a new fragrance, one leaves. This is a huge topic of conversation. I really invite you to go watch CG Scent's video, again, links below. It's a really interesting take on a really interesting conversation. And by the way, CG Scent's, great channel, unbiased reviews, great approachable content, check them out. Okay, enough blabbering. Now that we got all the massive intro aside, let's just dive right into it because this might be a long video. In this video, I mentioned that I have 19 samples of Zoologists. I'm gonna try to sample 9 or 10 in this video. We'll see how many I already sampled. I'll try to be quick and cover them all. This room is gonna be quite funky after I film this. The other 10 or 9 samples will be in part 2 of Zoologist speed dating. But yeah, I have many other houses to check out, so stay tuned. Okay, so without choosing, I'm gonna just take out the first 10 or 9 or whatever this is. And I don't even know what these are. I haven't looked at them, I haven't picked them, but we're gonna go through these one by one and I'll give you a quick and dirty impression, speed dating style. Quickly about Zoologist. Zoologist is a brand that focuses on scents based on animals. I love Zoologist as a brand. I find them very creative, very innovative, very refreshing in this fragrance space. I own 6 Zoologists. I have a couple reviews up, many more to come. I really applaud the fact that it's a fun experimental brand that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's a brand that really speaks to me. Let's get right into it. Okay, first fragrance from the batch, we have Zoologist Moth. As you can see, these are official samples. It's always better to get official samples just because they are factory sealed. They're less likely to go bad and just a better representation of the smell itself. Decants, you really never know what you get. So Zoologist Moth, there's a long blurb here. It's really interesting because these little samples have a ton of text, a ton of descriptions. There's notes written down. And although I really would like to read this for you guys, there's just not enough time in this video format. I really want to keep it speed dating style. Just you know nothing about the person in front of you, or in this case, the fragrance. Quick and dirty first impressions. All right, here we go with Moth. I'll go 1 spray for each because otherwise this room will be flooded. Nice and easy. Let's give it a moment to evaporate, just so the initial alcohol is off. Very interesting because moth is an animal that I really don't associate to any kind of smell. It's a very furry type of insect. I already get a lot of like spices, honey. There's some cinnamon, very beautiful, very warm. I can already tell that this is pretty complex. Zoologist might not be the best brand for this type of format, but hey, I have the sample, so we're here. Really interesting. It almost gives me the vibes of a sauna, like the wooden sauna cabin, which is very hot. There's something about the sauna vibes, sauna experience, maybe those aromatic oils burning, but it's very rich, very woody, kind of smoky. I can definitely pick up some honey. It's quite sweet, but not cloying, not artificial sweet. Very interesting, actually. Yeah, there's this bitter smoke in the background. There might be some oud. It might be something else, but it has a charred feel. It's a warm, spicy scent, very beautiful. I would think that it would fit perfectly in this fall, winter month, but it has like a little bit of a dusty aspect. Again, I'm not wearing it on skin, so I can't really talk about the wear experience, but just to recap, spicy woods, resins, maybe some fruit notes, maybe some flowers, smoke. It has a little bit of a bitter, woody background. Very welcoming, very comforting, very Oriental leaning, very Middle Eastern leaning. Just to give it a rating, I would say this is a solid 8 out of 10. Okay, on to the next one, Zoologist Panda. I forgot to say that Moth I have not smelled before. Zoologist Panda I have not smelled before. This is very, very new to me. Panda is one of the fragrances that really inspired me, that I really wanted to blind buy. And it's supposed to be green, it's supposed to be fresh, it's supposed to be, again, reminiscent of a panda. And panda eat eucalyptus or something like that. They eat bamboo. And yeah, so I'm expecting green vibes, fresh, maybe a little bit of skank from the animalics. I don't know how much of that will actually transfer to a strip, specifically in the opening, but we'll see. Once again, we'll go with one spray of Panda. Maybe two. Okay. I know I should be spraying these and letting them sit for a while, because ultimately when you buy a fragrance, you wear the mid-dry down and dry down. But I really wanted to keep this very quick and very first-hand impression. Very green, very fruity. I get immediately like an apple note. It reminds me of the opening of Promise by Frédéric Malle. Very fresh. I like it. It's actually quite good. Surprising. I was expecting a lot more herbaceousness, a lot more vegetableness. Off the bat, based only on the opening, this could be a very approachable scent. Maybe it could be your first approach with the house. A lot of the Zoologist scents are really funky, but surprisingly, a lot of them are very, very wearable. Not getting much else other than the green fruity opening. There is some powderiness. The base is unknown. It feels like there's some sort of a vanilla musky base. A lot of the Zoologists have a strong musky component to them just because, well, they're based on animals. Overall, easy-ish wear, pretty mass appealing. I really don't get any kind of animalics. I like it. Not as much as Moth, so this gets a 7 out of 10. Next scent, Penguin. This was highly anticipated for me. I was really intrigued by the concept, really intrigued by the design, and by the way, I love all Zoologist artwork. The whole concept behind a snowy, Arctic, fresh, invigorating fragrance really speaks to me. I'm very curious to see what this is. I'm expecting this to be fresh and airy, and unless you're using heavy fixatives, which Zoologist doesn't really use, this should not last that long. I can't really speak for longevity. I can't speak for a dry down, so just take these with a grain of salt. All right, Penguin, new test strip, one spray. Yeah, this is one spray. Okay. Ooh, I can already smell this in the air. Very difficult to explain, very light. I remember in the notes there's something like Arctic air, which is obviously BS, but it's sweeter than I was expecting it to be. I initially, in the air, when I was shaking, I was smelling a little bit of citruses, but those citruses are very faint. Phantom citruses, they're already almost gone. But there's definitely some sort of a zinginess in there. It might be citruses, it might be something like a ginger. The scent is exceedingly light. I was expecting light, but not this light. Maybe I haven't sprayed enough, but this is more almost like a molecular type scent. It's, I get it. I mean, the concept is what it is, so you would have to be very light. I sort of was expecting some mintiness in here, maybe something that would give you an artificial freshness, maybe some juniper berry. But it's actually quite tame. And the scent is going marine on me very quick. So there's definitely something like that marine accord, maybe that saltiness, maybe like an ambergris accord, something like that. Maybe there's some cologne. But yeah, it's a very light, fresh marine. Honestly, I've had a lot of these. I tested a lot of marine scents. I like marine scents, so this is not really surprising me in any way. It's good, but this is exactly one of those cases where if I were to sample this out of context, I would probably just shove it away. And if I were to blind buy this, this is one of those fragrances that I would really give a chance because I feel that this is not telling the whole story. But we're here in fragrance speed dating where first impressions count and first impressions are the lasting impressions. I would say quite mid. This is, to me, it's a 5. It's a 5, it's sort of unremarkable, not that exciting. Next fragrance, Dragonfly. I, again, have not smelled this whatsoever. I'm being very lucky with the samples. And yeah, this one was also one that I was excited about because again, I like aquatics, I like marine scents. This might not be necessarily marine, I'm expecting a little bit more of a fresh water type of feel. If I were to guess what this fragrance would smell like, I would think of something like Hermès Un Jardin Solennel, but we'll see. One spray of Dragonfly on the strip. That's good too. I should be a little bit more consistent with this because the Penguin, I only give it one, so it could be that it's weak because of that. Okay, let's give it a minute. You know what? My guess is surprisingly accurate. This does kind of smell like Un Jardin Solennel. It's way less citrusy. There's almost no citruses in here. What I'm getting is very delicate watery flowers. It might be some violet. It might be something like a lotus. And I say lotus because I have Sacred Scarab from Zoologist. I own a bottle and that is lotus heavy. And it kind of reminds me of that. There's definitely some sort of a water type thing going on. It's very delicate, very beautiful. Smells like a clean towel, smells like dryer sheets, smells like a hair softener. It's a very delicate type of scent. Smells like a very luxurious body cream in a way. It does have a wetness feeling to it. It does have a dewiness that is very well done. And kudos to the perfumer to this because the watery aspect is masterfully done. And again, we're talking about just the opening, very first impressions, but I get the feeling that this scent will not last much. I really can't smell any kind of animalic in here. Penguin had that ambergris type marininess, but this one here is very clean. It's invigorating. It might have some sort of a tea note. There's some greenery in there, some herbaceousness. It really does give me the feeling of sitting in front of a pond in the maybe like the morning mist. There's a very humid type of smell. It's very well done. Wow. I could definitely wear this. I really like it. Is this wow effect inducing? Not really. This is not a very wow inducing scent. It's very calm. It's very delicate. I like it because I really like it because this is definitely not my usual fragrance and it really caught me off guard. I would say it's a strong 7 out of 10. All right, goodbye, Dragonfly. On to the next. So now we have Hummingbird. Once again, very lucky. I guess that next video will be quite shorter. It's not one of those scents that really attracted me because all these fragrances like Hummingbird, there is also Cardinal, there's also, what is the other one? Another bird. But they're all pretty floral and pretty normal. And I don't really gravitate towards Zoologist as a smell good type of fragrance brand. To me, Zoologist represents fun, represents experimental, and the fragrances that I have from the house are really like that. I have T-Rex, I have Hyrax, I have all these very bold, in-your-face fragrances. Hummingbird was never on my list, although it's one of the highest rated from the house on Fragrantica and Profumo. Let's give it a test. Very floral already. Wow. Okay. Floral. I think it's very beautiful, actually. Wow, very floral, very beautiful. It reminds me of the fragrances that I smelled in Grâce by Fragonard, by Molinard. A very simple type of approach, very floral. I would say this definitely leans feminine. The other ones that I smelled were very unisex, but this one here, worn by a guy, you could probably wear it, but it's very feminine. This is very feminine, yes. I really like it. I would love to smell this on a woman. This is very dense, it's very potent, but at the same time, the florals in here are very fresh. They still have that dewy feeling of the Dragonfly. It's really interesting. I really like this aspect of these two fragrances. And it's a massive selling point for me. I'm not good at notes. I don't really pick out notes. I don't really care for notes, but this is more like a flower bouquet. I don't really know what's in here. I can't really pick out any kind of flowers, but I can give you the flower colors. So this is more like white and yellow flowers, maybe some pink. If there is rose in here, it gives a little bit more of roundness. It gives a little bit of a body. There might be some spices in here to give it like a little bit of a zing, maybe at top, like a pink pepper or something like that. Very floral. I think this smells absolutely amazing. If Dragonfly before gave me the impression of like fresh linen, maybe like a fresh dryer sheet, this brings that concept to a whole other level. What is missing from this is the beautiful dewy aspect, the watery aspect of Dragonfly. It's not as photorealistic, but it's absolutely gorgeous. I really like this. Wow, this is so addicting. I can't stop smelling it. This is definitely one of the fragrances that I would like to smell on a first impression comparison, because I really would like to give this the time it deserves. I feel that it has a lot to give. Some of the other ones that I smelled, namely Panda, maybe Penguin, I feel that they were a little bit more one-dimensional. This is rich, this is beautiful. First impressions, absolutely awesome. I would give this an 8. Next scent, Cow. Once again, I never smelled this in my life. These are fragrances that never really attracted me because of being a little bit too normal in a way. I tend to go for more the beastly ones, the stinky ones. I really like the stinky scents from Zoologist. I feel that they're more fun. Cow, as far as I read, this is a very green, very milky type of scent. Definitely not my thing. Let's give it a chance. Okay, same old 2 sprays. I'm not smelling much in here actually. It's definitely green. There is like a cut grass type of thing, but it's so incredibly light. I was expecting a lot more potency from Cow. God, I feel like I need to stick it up my nostril, God. All I'm getting is green. Green and slightly citrusy. Very, very pedestrian, very, very safe. None of the milkiness, none of the milky accord or whatever is in there. But again, this is very first impression. This is very first opening. The milkiness might show up in the mid or in the dry down. But as far as opening goes, really not impressed, I have to be honest. This is very simple. And simple is not always bad. It's almost often not bad if it's done well. But this is a little bit unremarkable. And again, by all means, I really want to underline the fact that these are very first impressions. This is not a review of the scent. Don't take my word for it. Kind of a sampling. If the scent profile inspires you, if it intrigues you, by all means, get yourself a sample and see what it's all about. Yeah, this is really basic. And for me, this is probably the worst one that I smelled up to now. I would say it's a 5, but if this is a 5, then Penguin has to be like a 6 or something like that. Okay, I quickly checked the remaining samples. I have to say that none of these I have smelled. So we're in luck for this one, but we may not be in luck for the next video. Nonetheless, for the next video, even if I smelt some of them, even if I own some bottles, because I know that there's T-Rex in there, I'll try to give my very first impressions. I'll try to zone out and be unbiased as possible. Next fragrance, Chipmunk. And Chipmunk is a fragrance that really intrigued me as far as art style goes, but the notes in here don't really speak to me. Once again, it should be woody, should be nutty. Based on the reviews, this is pretty average. And this is also to show you guys that Zoologist is a fairly approachable brand. And yes, I might have a strong nose, I might be used to very strong scents, but most of these, if not all of them, are very, very wearable. I feel that the most animalic I smelled till now is definitely Penguin, because it has a pretty strong marine type note, but the rest is easy to wear. You know what? I might actually really like this. In the air, I'm already getting some beautiful woods. Okay, off the bat, I really like this. I have to confess, this was beyond my expectations. I'm a sucker for realistic wood notes, like realistic tree notes. And this has an incredibly realistic tree note, like a fresh cut wood. It smells amazing. It smells like a wood shop. It smells like someone carving a statue out of wood. Wow, it's so well done. It's very piney, very resinous, very woody, almost balsamic. It feels like almost humid wood. It's so beautiful. Wow, I really like this. This is amazing. The nuts in here, I don't really smell them. I don't really get anything. It might be just blending into the whole thing. The main idea of this is tree. I get strong tree scent, like wood, resins, pine needles, sawdust, wood shop. It's beautiful. Carpenter, like wooden floors. It's absolutely gorgeous. I really, really like this. And I have 2 scents that are actually similar to this. One is Tom Ford's Bois Marocain, And the other one is Diesendurga Bowmakers. And you know what? Based on opening alone, again, I don't know anything about the dry down or the longevity or the development, but the opening is beautiful and it probably is better than those two that I have. I think this first impression is so good that I almost feel like going to buy a bottle of this. It's very beautiful. I really, really like it. This is definitely my type of scent profile. Very smooth, very powdery. It's so realistic. It feels like wood. It feels like I'm smelling a piece of wood. Is it the most wearable thing in the world? Not necessarily. I mean, I don't know how much you feel like being associated to wood, but it's definitely very photorealistic. I really like this. I would keep smelling this and keep giving you my impressions, but we need to keep it short. 8.5 out of 10, easily the best thing I smelled from the bunch. I really like this. Next scent, Chameleon. Once again, I have zero experience with the frag. Expectations for this is very wearable, maybe summer fresh, maybe fruity, maybe flowery, very colorful in a way. Let's see. This is quite a lot of stuff put together. Off the bat, kind of reminds me of something like Zerjof Erba Gold or Erba Pura. It's well done. It comes as a unified wave of smell. Very difficult to pick stuff out. There's no one fruit that comes to mind. If anything, it's maybe something like pineapple. There's something a little bit more citrusy or acidic in there. There might be citruses. Again, it's difficult to pick apart. It's this basket of fruit type of thing with flowers in it. It really reminds me of those Zerjofs there. There's not much going on the back end. I feel that this is reasonably fresh though. There's something in the back of this that gives it a little bit of freshness, a little bit of lift. I'm not really sure what it is. It might be some sort of a minty note, maybe a herbaceous note. Maybe there's something like orange blossom in there that's giving it this kind of zing. Very appealing, very inoffensive, definitely not my thing. This is the kind of stuff that if I were to spray and sample in a shop, I would definitely never give this a second smell, never give it a second thought. Not for me. I would say this is still unisex. I think it leans a little bit feminine, very fruity, very fresh. It's a good scent, but not like Hummingbird. I would say this is a 6 out of 10. On to Harvest Mouse. Now, Harvest Mouse is actually one of the ones that intrigued me. It seemed like one of the more daring ones. There's booze in here. There's beer accord. I seem to remember that it's from Luca Maffei. And also, again, the art is killer. I like it. I like the concept. I like mice. I just like the farm feeling, the farm vibe. I like hay. I like animals. So this might be a really nice comforting scent. Very sweet. Very, very sweet. Unexpectedly sweet. There's a lot of vanilla in here, a lot of amber, a lot of vanilla. There's benzoin. There's something in there that really reminds me of an ambery vanilla accord. I was totally not expecting this. I don't know why. I was expecting beer, hay, maybe dryness, maybe a little bit of a tobacco thing. Not this. This is by far the sweetest one from the bunch. This is almost gourmand. It's so sweet. This is some sort of a vanilla dessert, maybe with some cinnamon or spices on top of it. Very beautiful. It's actually really well done. I'm not a fan of the scent profile, the scent type, but I have to admit this is quite addicting. Unfortunately, off the strip, first impressions, no hay, no beer, nothing of that edginess that I was expecting, nothing of that farm vibe. This is very gourmand. In a way, it's kind of disappointing in that regard because I was expecting a little bit more complexity, especially from Luca Maffei. It's good. It's mass appealing, easy to wear, easy gourmand, your typical kind of gourmand. Based on first impressions, this is definitely not something that I would gravitate to Zoologist for as a brand. I feel that Zoologist has a lot more to offer. But if you like the brand, if you like the more mild scents from Zoologist, you could definitely give this a try. To me, this is fairly unremarkable. I would say lower end of the ones I smelled. I would say this is a 6.5 out of 10. Last but not least, Rabbit. Rabbit is one of the later fragrances from the brand. Again, I love the art style. I love the concept. This one was on my buy list. I almost blind bought this many times. One of the reasons why I didn't blind buy this is because the only version that was available was the special edition, and my silly OCD thing makes me want to have the bottles all the same. So I'd rather have the non-special edition. But yeah, Rabbit as a concept seems cool. I'm expecting the carrot note. Well, Rabbit is basically stereotypical carrot. A lot of the reviews online say that this is another type of desserty thing. We'll see. I might like this more than Harvest Mouse. I have high hopes though. Wow, this is so different. This is cool. It might not be for me, but this is cool. This is really unique. Wow, this is so strange. This smells like a carrot cake. I know I'm being biased, maybe the marketing, but I swear this smells like a carrot cake. This smells like bread, like some sort of a bready cake that's sweet. And it definitely has carrot in it. Carrot, maybe spices. This is something else. I was expecting gourmand, but I was not expecting this kind of gourmand because this really took me by surprise. This is very unique. And while Harvest Mouse is your typical vanilla thing that I would definitely not go to Zoologist for, this is cool. This is innovative. I really like this. I really like being surprised. I really like being caught off guard. This definitely caught me off guard. It's such a photorealistic, like a banana bread, like a muffin. I can't stress enough how it smells like a hot cake out of the oven that's still steaming. It has that humidity in it. It has that humid factor, that sweetness, that spiciness. So beautiful. It's like when you open an oven and that steam comes out and hits you with that fragrance of cake. It's beautiful. Wow. I love to bake, and this is incredibly photorealistic to me. It really smells amazing. Is it the most wearable? Not really, because this is so unique, it's so particular that it's almost not a fragrance, it's more like a smell. But it's a good smell, so I would say it's mass appealing. I've never smelled a gourmand like this. This is one of the standouts from today. I'm really surprised by this. I'm really surprised. This is high up there with Harvest Mouse. Maybe even just because they exceeded my expectations so much. I really wasn't expecting to be brought on a journey that much. Harvest Mouse is like the perfect tree scent, and this is like the perfect baked cake. This is really amazing. I really like this. Wow. Oh my God, I want a bottle of this. This is so good. It's so beautiful. It's so sweet, but not like in a flavor wise, and more like a cute type thing. It reminds me of being kids. It reminds me of being excited about little things. So evocative, not necessarily of a rabbit, but of a time and space, of like the simplicity of things, about being excited about cookies in the oven. This is amazing. I really like this. This is probably the best one I've smelled. I'm out of words. It's so good. It's so good. Wow. I think I'm gonna wear this on skin. I think I'm gonna wear a rabbit on skin. It's definitely deserving of that. It's beautiful. I like it. I like it a lot. This is definitely the kind of thing that if it were to smell in a shop, I'd probably buy a bottle. It's really great. It's really great. Okay, Rabbit. This is a very strong 8.5 out of 10. Tied with Chipmunk. Chipmunk was amazing as well. I think I mistakenly said Harvest Mouse before, maybe. But anyway, it was Chipmunk. Zoologist Rabbit and Zoologist Chipmunk are definitely the highlights from today's fragrance speed dating. Very impressed by these two. The other ones were mildly forgettable. There's a couple good ones in there. The other one that I really liked was probably Hummingbird. Not for me, but beautiful. Overall, fun times. I'll take a break, come back tomorrow probably because my nose is a little bit fatigued. This room smells a lot. Nothing animalic, very wearable. I hope you found this new format interesting. It's still in development process. If you have any comments, suggestions, write them down below. I always reply. I always keep the conversation open. If you have any experience with zoologists, leave them down below again. I really like to talk to you guys. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for your time. Until the next time, many more of these to come. Cheers.